Hi, welcome to the 14-day weather forecast. January is flying by and it has been a very unusual month so far. Not much sign of any snow, unlike on the picture there which I took last year, but what really stands out is the dryness. High pressure has been dominating things, and here are some statistics from my weather station in Berkhamsted, Hertfordshire, so it's about 25 miles northwest of central London. There have been 6 nights where the temperature dropped below 0 Celsius. The maximum temperature was on the 1st, so on New Year's Day, when 13.8 Celsius was reached. Minimum temperature, minus 3.6 on the 6th, and the total amount of rain which has fallen, only 19.3 millimetres. So it really has been very dry so far. Is that trend set to continue as we go through the next 2 weeks? As usual, I'll start by taking a look at the view across Europe and the North Atlantic. The animation runs from 18 GMT, Tuesday the 18th. At the outset, there are some outbreaks of rain in the northwest of the UK. In southern and central regions, it's dry. But things are changing in the short term. Those patchy outbreaks of rain clear southeastwards. There won't be much rain at all in the south, I think. But colder air then follows them down from the north. And during Thursday, there is a chance of wintry showers in eastern coastal counties. Should be dry, though, as you go further west, because it's closer to the high pressure, which is centred in the Atlantic. And that quickly builds back eastwards across the UK to bring a return to a settled theme. But through the weekend and into the early part of next week, there are signs of a more active Atlantic beginning to bring an increase in risk of rain to the northern half of the UK, particularly the northwest. Now, this model run finishes with quite a nasty area of low pressure centred close to northern Scotland on Tuesday the 25th. It's based on the GFS computer model, and I'll take a look at some of the other deterministics in a moment, because I think this one is something of an outlier with such an unsettled picture across the north by Tuesday. But even if it's correct, it's still dry and settled in southern and central regions. Just to quickly run the air mass temperature sequence based on the same computer model run, again starting from Tuesday the 18th. UK here under the green shading, so relatively mild air to start off with, but that quickly changes through Wednesday and Thursday, as I mentioned. Cold Arctic air, which is shown by the blue shading on this animation, pushes southwards, particularly affecting eastern parts of Britain there. But it doesn't last long. It's quickly pushed eastwards into continental Europe as a high pressure returns from the west. And then, as I mentioned, by Tuesday the 25th, there are some indications on this computer model run at least of a relatively deep area of low pressure being centred close to Scotland. Taking a look at the 2-metre temperatures which we could expect, if that type of evolution is correct. 09 GMT, Thursday the 20th, so the cold air has moved southwards by this point, a widespread frost. Temperatures there locally down to about minus 5 Celsius in northern England, but below freezing point quite widely. In the afternoon, it's relatively cold as well. 4s, 5s, 6s over all parts of the country, maybe just a little milder there in the southwest, as is often the case when we've got the colder air coming down from the north. Moving forwards to Saturday the 22nd, and by now daytime temperatures at least are beginning to recover, still in single figures, but 6s, 7s, 8s. Some of the highest values are there in northern Scotland. That's further away from the high pressure, and something of an Atlantic influence may be beginning to make its presence felt. 09 GMT, Monday the 24th. By now, that trend continues. The risk of frost increasingly focused on southern and central parts of the UK. In the north, temperatures are somewhat higher there. This is showing minimums on Monday the 24th. In the afternoon, it's still single figures in the south, 7s, 8s, 9s, really quite close to the average across all parts of the UK by then through the days. So just showing you the MOGREPS temperature plot for London. This is the UK Met Office ensemble. You can see in the short term, maximums around 7 or 8 Celsius, but then we get the colder plunge on Thursday and maximums then down to about 4 or 5 Celsius. Later on, there's an increasing spread, but it looks fairly close to average during the days. The ongoing risk there of some frost at night, maybe. It's fluctuating. It's going to be depending on the amount of cloud cover in particular towards the end of the first week. Going up to Glasgow, again, it's a similar profile in the short term. We see the cold plunge showing up clearly. Later on, though, temperatures are trending upwards. It's turning milder as we go through the first week. Rainfall, once more, very little, particularly in southern and central parts of the United Kingdom. The chart on the left is for days 0 to 5, on the right, days 0 to 10, both showing accumulated precipitation. As has been the case recently, in much of the UK, there isn't a great deal of difference between the two charts because the forecast rain amounts are so low. Large parts of southern and central Britain, even on the days 0 to 10, are showing 0 millimetres accumulated rain. So there could be a few drops, but nothing measurable, as I say, in some parts of southern and central Britain. You really have to go up to the northwest to find significant amounts. Western Scotland there, over 50 millimetres locally in the 10-day range. But once more, that's not at all unusual for this time of the year. Not particularly wet even in the northwest of the UK. So the GFS is suggesting high pressure continuing to have a lot of influence through the first week, perhaps low pressure beginning to make its bring more unsettled conditions to the north later on. How does that compare to what the other deterministic models are showing? Just to recap, here is the GFS, Tuesday the 25th. The high pressure here dominating things, but that area of low pressure, which is looking quite nasty there, moves in on the subsequent days and tracks close to northern Scotland. The Canadian model actually shows something quite significantly different. High pressure building from the north, bringing colder air southwards, and this particular run goes on to show quite a cold period of weather in the days which follow as high pressure becomes centred more to the northeast of the UK, allowing a continental feed across southern and central regions. But is there support for it from the other deterministics? Here's the German icon model, closer to the GFS, although the area of low pressure is weaker and further to the northwest, closer to Iceland. The European ECM model, similar, again, high pressure really having a lot of influence across all parts of the UK. And finally, the UK Met Office model, high pressure here over southern and central regions, but extending northwards really with low pressure quite a long way off in the Atlantic there. So there are some notable differences between the deterministic models this week. The two which really stand out are the Canadian. That's because it's bringing in this colder period of weather. It's an outlier, so I'm going to say that it's an unlikely scenario. And the other, not exception, but the other key difference is probably with the GFS model, so the one which the animation was based upon, because it had that more active area of low pressure closer to northern parts of the UK, bringing the risk of wet and windy conditions, and that's not to Scotland at least, and that isn't really supported by the ECM, UK Met Office or ICON models. I think therefore it's probably overdoing the development of that low pressure area. So all in all, some rain in the north towards the end of the first week, probably less than the GFS is showing, southern and central regions remaining under the influence of high pressure settled with an ongoing risk of nighttime frost and fog, daytime temperatures probably becoming close to the norm. That covers week 1. How about week 2? As usual, it's all about looking at the ensemble data to try and identify the trends and the probabilities, not the forecast specifics. Starting with the 16-day GEFS plot for London. Across the top, it shows forecast 850 HPA temperatures. Those are approximately 1,500 metres above sea level. At the beginning of week 2, the purple line, the ensemble mean, is just a little above the black line, which is a 30-year norm, but it dips below it and it stays there later on. A cooling trend, apparently. However, I think it could be a little misleading in this instance to focus on the ensemble mean because there's a relatively small cluster of runs in there which are bringing in much colder air, and those are pulling down the average. If they were taken out, that purple line would probably be very close to a 30-year norm, perhaps even a little above it on some days. Rainfall across the bottom, or I should say precipitation, of course, there could be snow around. Through the second week, a few spikes appear, but they are small, and there are not many of them at all. The data is suggesting a lot of dry weather, not completely dry. I think there will be something falling from the sky in small amounts. Will it be rain or snow? Snow across the bottom helps answer the question. It can take a value of 33, but it doesn't go above 6. That's suggesting the maximum chance of snow falling, not necessarily accumulating, on any particular day is between 20 and 25%. A low chance. I don't think we're going to be seeing very much snow. I don't think we're going to be seeing any, actually, in the London area during the second week, if this is correct. Going up to Glasgow, taking a look at the northwest of the UK, the 850 HPA temperature profile across the top is very similar to the London one. It's dipping down later on. Once more, though, there are some runs which bring in very cold air, and they are probably distorting the mean. Rainfall, though, is different. There are more spikes here, and they are bigger. The risk of rain is increasing through that second week, probably more of an Atlantic influence into the northwest of the UK. Will there be snow around as well as rain? The snow over there at the very end reaches 12 out of 33, so 35 to 40%, I think, or around about that figure, being the highest chance of snow falling on any given day. A low to moderate chance, but greater than the London plot was suggesting. Well, discuss the upper air temperatures there, the 850 HPA temperatures. What about the ones that we experience down at the ground level, 2 metre temperatures? Here's a 16-day data table for London. The columns are mostly light green, and light green is used to indicate runs forecasting maximums of between 6 and 10 Celsius. It's a relatively mild picture which is being shown. The caveat, though, is that with high pressure sitting close to Britain, there could well be fog forming by night, and that may be slow to lift during the days. Where it lingers, temperatures would be pegged back significantly, probably staying cold or even very cold, and the GEFS doesn't tend to model that scenario particularly well. Going up to Glasgow, there's more dark green in these columns, runs forecasting maximums of between 1 and 5 Celsius. The amounts are fluctuating, but they are in the majority on some days. Therefore, I would say temperatures are going to be varying around the average here. There's more of an Atlantic influence likely, so there could be colder air coming down from the northwest at times. The data table showing mean surface level pressure for York is suggesting that high pressure will be having a lot of influence at the start of the second week. The oranges and reds are, the oranges are 1,026 to 1,040 millibars. The reds, or pinky reds, over 1,040. That's very, very high pressure because the average at this time of year is around 1,011. Later on though, there is more yellow, green and blue beginning to appear. Even so, yellow, which is 1,011 to 1,025 millibars, is above the average for this part of the country at this time of the year. Therefore, the signal is for pressure to probably begin weakening through the second week, but for it to stay above that long-term average. Here's the anomaly chart, pressure anomaly chart for 31st of January, generated using the GEFS ensemble, the mean from it. The yellows and browns to the west of the UK is where the positive anomaly is. The blues to the east and the north is where the negative one is being forecast. Therefore, high pressure could well be centred close to the UK or just to the west. Taking a look at the postage stamp charts, these are for the 31st of January, and basically what they show is the pressure forecasts from all of the runs in the ensemble at that time. I've annotated the chart just to make things a little clearer. Out of the 31 stamps, 18 of them are showing high pressure close to or over the UK. 9 have it to the west, the southwest or the northwest, and those are the ones which lead to the possibility of it turning colder. The other 4 have a more vigorous Atlantic influence, at least over the northern half of the UK. There is an element of subjectivity to how I've categorised these, but I think it's a reasonable summary which I've given there, suggesting that high pressure will be continuing to be very influential at this point, if the GEFS is correct. So, to summarise the next 2 weeks, week 1, cloud and patchy rain clear southwards and colder air follows from the north. Wintry showers are likely in Scotland and eastern coastal counties during Wednesday and Thursday, but then it turns dry as high pressure builds back in from the west. Daytime temperatures recover and become close to the average, but there is a risk of frost and fog at night. Later on, that becomes more focused on the southern half of the UK as the chance of rain increases in the north. It could also be turning milder there as more of an Atlantic influence returns. Week 2, high pressure continues to be a key feature, but it could be weakening. Generally, the theme is for it to be more changeable in the north, and in southern and central regions, it should often be dry. That is where the chance of fog and frost remain the greatest. Temperatures probably close to the average, maybe a little above it in the south. There is a good deal of uncertainty though, because if fog lingers, it will be cold or even very cold. I'm leaving an alternative scenario in, giving it a 25% chance, and that is for it to turn significantly colder later on. Well, there we have it. January is turning out to be a very notable month indeed because of the dominance of high pressure, and it looks as though any changes during the next 2 weeks will only be gradual. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons below. Thanks for watching now. Bye.